There are wounds we never speak of, moments we hide so deep, even our closest friends wouldn't suspect they exist. Scars etched into skin, soul, and silence tucked away beneath sleeves, smiles, and strength. We wear them like armor, pretending they're no longer there, pretending they don't still ache when no one is watching. But you know something? Every scar is a voice, waiting to be heard, a whisper beneath the noise that says, "I've been through something, and I'm still standing." So before we begin, pause for a moment. Think of that one scar, the one you never talk about, the one that changed you, that made you softer, or maybe harder, that made you someone who understands pain, because you've met it face to face. And now, you're still here. Isn't that something worth honoring? Every scar carries a shadow, a memory, a moment frozen in time when life hit hard and left a mark. Some scars are jagged and raw, stretched across skin like battle lines. Others, you can't see. They live behind the eyes. They hide in the way someone hesitates before trusting again, in the way they flinch at a sound no one else notices, in the silence they carry when the world keeps talking. But what if we looked closer? Every scar is not just a wound. It's a chapter, a line in your story that says, "I was broken here, but I didn't stay broken." It's not weakness, it's survival. It's proof that something tried to destroy you and failed. That faint line across your arm, that's where you refuse to give up. That heaviness in your chest, that's where love once lived and still echoes. That numbness in your smile, that's where you learn to wear strength like a second skin. Every scar is your body's way of saying, "I came through, I endured, I'm still writing this story." So let me ask you something. How many scars are you carrying? Not just the ones on your skin, but the quiet ones. The ones stitched into your heart after someone left. The ones burned into your mind after a battle no one saw. The ones no doctor ever treated, but you still feel every single day. Have you ever stopped? Not to hide them, not to erase them, but to honor them? Because maybe, just maybe, that scar isn't something to be ashamed of. Maybe it's your badge, your proof, your silent, unshakable truth that says, "I survived." And if you're still here breathing, fighting, hoping, hurting, healing, then your story is not over yet. People often try to erase their scars, with makeup, with surgery, with silence, as if those lines, those marks, those memories somehow make them weak, broken, less. But what if we looked at scars differently? Not as signs of failure, but as signs of survival. What if we stopped asking, "How can I hide this?" and started asking, "What did I overcome to earn this?" Because behind every scar there's a moment, a decision, a pain endured, a battle faced, and maybe it's time we stopped scrubbing away the past and started honoring the story it tells. Every scar has a story that says, "I survived." It's just one line, but in that line lives 1,000 battles. Scars don't scream, they whisper. They don't boast, they bear witness. They don't ask for pity, they stand as proof that something tried to break you and failed. That pain visited, but didn't stay. That you walked through fire, and though it singed you, it didn't stop you. A scar isn't a flaw, it's a flag, raised on the soil of your skin, planted at the edge of a war, to say, "I made it through." What if we stopped hiding our scars and started honoring them? Because a scar isn't shameful, it's sacred. It means, "I've been hurt, but I healed." It means, "Life hit me hard, but I'm still here. Scars are not what make you less beautiful. They're what make your beauty undeniable. Because anyone can look polished, but it takes courage to look real. Each scar on your body, each mark on your soul, is like a medal you didn't ask for, but earned through survival. So don't cover it. Don't apologize for it. Wear it like armor, because there's someone out there, still bleeding through a wound, who needs to know it's possible to stop. Scars come in many forms. Some are easy to see etched into the skin by knives, surgeries, burns, or bullets. They're visible, tangible. They have dates, causes, and medical records. But then there are the scars that don't bleed. The ones no doctor stitched. The ones no one asks about. Emotional scars. The kind you carry behind a smile. The kind that ache every time you hear a certain song, walk past a certain place, or see a certain face. There are scars left by betrayal, by loss, by words spoken in anger, or silence kept in fear. There are scars from choices you regret, and scars from things you had no choice in at all. And the hardest part? Most people won't notice them. They'll think you're fine. They'll call you strong. And maybe you are. But being strong doesn't mean you're not scarred. It means you wake up every day, still carrying the weight of what no one else sees. And you choose to move forward anyway. Every scar tells a story. But more than that, every scar proves survival. Some scars were born from battles with depression, dark tunnels with no visible end, days when getting out of bed felt like climbing a mountain, nights when silence screamed louder than any voice. Some scars come from heartbreak, from holding someone's hand through their final breath, from watching someone walk away and knowing they'll never return, from goodbyes you didn't get to say. Some scars were carved by life's blunt force. An accident, a betrayal, a moment when everything you knew was shattered in seconds. But here's the power they carry. If you're still here, still breathing, still walking forward with those scars on your back or in your chest, then you've already done something incredible. You didn't let it end you. You were shaken. You were broken. You were burned. But you survived. And now, those scars, they're not just pain. They're proof of your power. You have two choices when you look at your scars. You can see them as shame, as a reminder of how you fell, as proof that you were weak once. Or you can see them as medals. Not medals for perfection, but for resilience. Because every scar, whether seen or unseen, is the receipt of a battle survived. You didn't stay in the fire. You walked through it. You didn't drown in the storm. You swam your way back to shore. You didn't give up, even when every voice in your head begged you to. So no, your scars are not flaws. They are chapters of a life fully lived. They are lessons you didn't just read. You endured. When someone asks what you've been through, you don't need to explain everything. Just look at your scars and smile, because what tried to break you failed. Some scars are visible, others are stitched deep within. This is the story of a soldier whose scar was both. A young Marine deployed in Afghanistan. He believed in the mission, in his brothers in arms, in protecting what mattered. Then came the explosion. His convoy was ambushed. The blast tore through the vehicle. Shrapnel sliced through bone and fire devoured the rest. When he woke up in a hospital in Germany, he was missing his right leg below the knee. Burns covered half his body. His first thought wasn't about pain. It was about shame. How can I go home like this? Who am I now if I'm not whole? For months, he avoided mirrors. He hated how people looked at him like he was broken, like he was a ghost of who he used to be. Sleep became a stranger. He'd wake up drenched in sweat, the explosion replaying in his mind. Then, one day, after yet another silent breakdown, he sat alone, staring at what was left of his leg, and he whispered, "You're not the reason I'm broken. You're the reason I'm still here." That moment didn't fix everything, but it cracked something open. He started talking to other wounded veterans. He began sharing his story honestly, painfully, without filters. And to his surprise, people listened. They didn't see a broken man. They saw a survivor. Today, he stands on a prosthetic leg, not just as a Marine, but as a speaker, a mentor, a light for others walking through darkness. And when young veterans come to him, angry and ashamed of their scars, he tells them what he learned the hard way. "I looked at the part of me that was gone, and I said, 'You're the reason I get to live another day.'" Because sometimes survival is the greatest act of courage. She never thought her life would look like this. Once, she had a family, a husband, a child, a small home filled with laughter. Then one day, it all shattered. He left. No warning, no explanation. Just silence and a note on the kitchen table. Bills piled up, the fridge emptied. The walls echoed too loud at night. But worse than the loneliness was the feeling of being invisible, forgotten, abandoned, worthless. She held it together for months on the outside, smiling at parent-teacher meetings, packing lunches, answering, "I'm fine," to every, "How are you?" But inside, she was unraveling. Sleep came in bursts. Hope came in flashes and left just as quickly. One evening, exhausted beyond words, she sat at the kitchen floor, head buried in her arms. And the thought came, would anyone notice if I were gone? Then, a small voice behind her, "Mom, if you disappear, who's going to braid my hair?" It was her daughter, 5 years old, eyes full of confusion and love. That one question didn't fix everything, but it pierced through the fog. Because sometimes, love speaks through the smallest voices. From that night forward, she began to fight, not for herself, but for the little girl who still saw her as everything. She went to therapy. She journaled her pain. She walked every morning just to remind herself the sun still rose. Years later, she's built a life again. Not perfect, not painless, but full of truth and light. And when asked how she survived, she smiles and says, "The scar in my heart? It's not shame. It's a map I now use to teach my daughter how to be strong. Because some scars don't just tell stories. They teach them." He was just 19, full of dreams, recklessness, and the kind of invincibility that only youth can carry. That night, he was driving Homomusic up, windows down, when a truck ran a red light. The collision wasn't the worst part. The fire was. When the flames reached him, he was trapped, screaming, clawing, praying. By the time the rescue team pulled him out, over 60% of his body had been burned. He was put into a medically induced coma. Doctors didn't think he'd survive the first week, but he did. And when he finally opened his eyes, his mother was there, clutching his hand. Tears ran down her face as she whispered, "You're here. You're still here." He looked down at his bandaged body, at the tubes, the scars, the unfamiliar reflection in the mirror. And he did not feel lucky. He felt broken, ugly, useless. Months passed. Skin grafts, therapies, nights filled with nightmares, days filled with stares from strangers. He tried to hide his face. He tried to hide from the world. Until one day, a little boy in the burn unit wheeled up next to him and asked, "Are you a superhero?" He laughed for the first time in months. "Why would you say that?" "Because you have marks like one," the boy said. Something shifted in him that day. He started speaking in group therapy. Then he started visiting patients, telling them what no doctor could. That it's okay to hurt. It's okay to be angry. But it's not okay to stop living. Today, he's a motivational speaker. He stands on stage, burned but unbowed, and says with pride, "The fire took my skin, but it couldn't take my spirit. And every scar I carry, it screams, I didn't die, I lived." Because sometimes, the most powerful survival story is written on your skin. Maybe you're still carrying a scar. Maybe it's one you can point to. A surgical line, a jagged reminder of an accident, a wound that bled. Or maybe it's invisible. A betrayal, a moment of loss, a memory that visits uninvited at 2 a.m. Whatever it is, please hear this. You do not need to hide it. That scar is not your shame. It is your proof that you have endured something fierce and lived to tell the tale. The world may not see your battle. They may not clap when you wake up and choose to keep going. But your scar is already applauding you, in the language only survivors understand. So today, instead of covering it, try placing your hand over it. Whisper gently, "You are part of me, and I'm still standing." Because if you are here still breathing, still listening, then you, my friend, have already won a war no one else knows about. If you still carry scars, visible or not, know this. It means you're still alive. And being alive means you still have time. Time to rebuild. Time to rewrite. Time to turn the pain into purpose. You may not have chosen what hurt you. You may not even understand why it happened. But you can choose what happens next. You can choose to honor the story behind the scar. You can choose to let it guide you, not define you. You can choose to wear it not as a wound, but as armor forged by fire. And when others come to you, broken and quiet, you'll understand them. Because your scars have made you fluent in the language of strength, healing, and grace. Scars are not ugly. They are not shameful. They are proof that you endured, that you suffered, and that you refused to stay down. Each one is a silent anthem, a quiet monument, a whispered legacy that says, I was hurt, but I healed. I was lost, but I returned. I was broken, but I chose to stand. So wear them, not with pride born of ego, but with pride born of survival, with the quiet, unwavering dignity of someone who didn't quit, even when quitting would have been easier. And when someone asks, what happened to you? You can smile and not in bitterness, but in wisdom, and say softly, it's just a story that says I survived. If you're carrying a scar in your body or buried deep within, know this, you're not alone. There's a quiet army of survivors out there, each one walking beside you in silence and strength. If this story touched something inside you, if you've ever looked at your scars and whispered, I'm still here, then leave a symbol below. Drop a huge as a gentle handshake between survivors. And if you'd like, stay with us here at USM Soldier's Memory. Subscribe, follow, and join this journey where we don't just tell stories, we honor survival. One scar, one breath, one silent victory at a time.